So what do we need to do here? We need to train during certain time periods with a rounded spine. The best way we've seen to do that is getting people to lift those medicine balls and those stones and get them to the shoulder. What that allows us to do is get down, keep the ball close, the stone close to the torso, but it requires a rounded position in order to get that all the way up there. We'll be talking about some further mechanics of getting the stone up in the next meeting, but today I want you guys to understand that at certain times we can allow some rounded spines and we're going to be okay. We're not going to hurt our clients. But you might hear from other people that, oh, you should never round your spine. And I want you guys to be educated and understand that there's two different muscle groups at work here. And if we avoid one to overload the other, we're just setting people up for injury risk later on. And if we train them both appropriately, they're going to be strong and fit and healthy outside of here. Any questions on that part? Yeah, Daniel.
Is there a correlation between someone's heavy deadlift and the medicine ball or stone you have them use?
That's a good question. For now, I don't have a specific prescription for it. I haven't seen enough people lift to get some numbers on where they should be. So what I do is I undershoot. So I basically say, go as light as we need to for you to feel comfortable so that we don't create so much insult that we get an irritation.
So if they have a 100-pound deadlift, they're not using like the 70-pound ball?
Well, so I'm saying I don't know. I'm saying I don't have enough evidence in my practice right now to say they should be okay here or this should be okay there. So I don't have any structural balance guidelines yet. If they're uncomfortable, then have them drop back down. If they're comfortable, my assumption is, especially if they're comfortable for the next 2 to 3 days, that we didn't create too much insult, that we haven't led to an irritation. Does that make sense? Yeah, good question.
How does it change when you're assessing someone? How you coach them in a traditional deadlift? Would you encourage a flat back posture nonetheless? Would you coach that the same, just being mindful of this? How would you?
Yeah, so it depends on their history. If I have somebody who comes in who I know sits a lot throughout the day, sitting basically puts us into a rounded spine position. So if I have somebody who sits a lot, I know their spine is already regularly rounded. So in that person, I may encourage a little bit more of a neutral spine to try and encourage some better development of the extrinsic musculature. Okay, and then in somebody who has flexion-induced pain, basically when their spine flexes, it hurts, I'm going to encourage them to get out of that flexed position at least periodically so that we can get out of that irritation. We want to get them to the point where they can round comfortably, then we're going to start to train that rounded position. So if I have somebody without flexion-induced pain who sits a lot, I may encourage them to go a little bit more neutral at the start. If I have somebody who has flexion-induced pain, I'm going to keep them out of that flexion position, at least for a period to get them out of the symptoms, and then we're going to basically go from there to help strengthen all of that stuff. Now, adding to that, we use some structural balance guidelines. Basically, what we've seen is that about 25% more than their back squat, they should be able to deadlift keeping a neutral spine, but we can go up to about 33% greater than the back squat and lift with a rounded spine. So basically, they get into that position and it's a little bit more rounded as they come up off the ground as opposed to that perfectly flat position as they come up. And so you can be a little bit stronger in that rounded position, getting up to about 33% more, but in more neutral spine, about 25%. So then when I've had a client for a long period of time, if they're at, if they can deadlift 30% greater than their back squat with a rounded spine, but they're only about 10% greater keeping a neutral spine, then I'm going to encourage some more neutral spine lifting to get that element in place with the rounded spine. Does that make sense? So basically showing one stronger here, the other stronger here, we want to create a nice balance between the two. Cool? Yep. Is that?
Two more movements that I notice a lot are the good mornings and the remains, especially the good mornings, because a lot of people just try to get to the 90 degrees. I mean, they can't keep their shoulders back and everything kind of collapses in. What's your instruction on that? Is that okay?
Instruction for good mornings as far as low back rounding or as far as positioning?
Low back rounding, that's okay?
Yeah, so with the good morning, we do want to maintain a neutral spine. What we're training is actually neutral spine with a hip hinge there. Now, neutral spine means all the way from the skull down to the base here. So sometimes when I see people set up for those good mornings, they'll have a protracted neck and some of this rounded spine posture here. And so as they go forward, they end up creating this little crick where they can hold the bar. We don't want that. What we want is a taller spine position, so they've got a neutral neck here and a nice neutral upper part of the back instead of that rounded spot. So the first place to go to is fix how they get the bar off. Two problems from there is as they start to go forward, the elbows are going to come forward and they're going to round, or the elbows are going to go backwards and they're going to round. So what we want to do is think about pulling those elbows right into the side of the rib cage as opposed to allowing them to go forward or backwards. And then as they hinge, they should go as far as they can, keeping that whole spine neutral. And what's going to happen is they're going to get to a point where they'll round here and extend there and they'll try and go a little further. We need to stop that. And so basically the end of the good morning range is where they can keep that spine neutral and come back up. Other questions? All really good questions, guys. All right, good. I'm all done. Thank you.